Good evening. Welcome into the Larry Krystkowiak Coaches Show tonight, presented by Smith's, as always, from Larry's Lair, high above the Huntsman Center and the Huntsman basketball facility. But as you can see, no LK tonight. He's out on the recruiting trail this evening, so pinch hitting for him. Assistant coach DeMarlo Slocum's in here with us. We'll talk Utah basketball, the Kentucky trip. We'll talk about the win over Florida A&M last night on Monday night. We'll talk a little bit about what lies ahead on Friday night with Northern Arizona coming in, the break, practice, some recruiting stuff. We'll get to all that stuff, and we're going to be joined tonight by a man who had a career night last night against FAMU. That's Parker Van Dyke. He'll join us coming up in a few minutes as well. And as always, as I mentioned, we're brought to you by Smith's, proud sponsor of Utah Athletics. Low prices and market fresh. Slokes, we've stepped our game up here a little bit since the last time you joined us. We're in the office. We've got the lights. We've got the cameras. This isn't just any old radio show anymore. This is a big time production.
No. This in this office. This is not any office either, man. So to have it here is great.
I say it's got to be the best office view on campus. I don't know that anybody's got a better office on campus than Coach K does.
No, I'd like to compare it, but I don't think it'd be a fair comparison.
When you look at the view, the space, what he's got here, yeah, I would venture to guess not many people have a better office space.
Not many.
And yours has got the same, it's not as big, you're down the hallway, but you've got a pretty good view at your office too.
Yeah, mine's just like a quarter of this one. But no, we all pretty blessed to have pretty good views out of our office.
All right, we got a lot to talk about on the show tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the game last night. Let's start first, though, with Kentucky. It was a big trip. Mm-hmm. We were all out there, Lexington, Kentucky. Whenever you face Big Blue and Big Blue Nation, as they like to call themselves, that's a big game. Winningest program in the history of college basketball. You guys knew going in you would have a big test against Kentucky. Though this may not be one of Cal's vintage teams, it's still a really good and really talented team. Talk a little bit about the mindset going in and then how that game kind of played out in your minds. Obviously, we know the turnovers were your undoing in that game, but talk about a little bit about the other stuff too.
Well, I think our main focus going into the game was rebounding. And surprisingly, to come out with such a gap in the outcome, we rebounded the ball pretty well. In fact, I think we out-rebounded them. But
you did. You were +8.
Yeah. So we, that was our mentality going in. But obviously, there's other aspects to the game, and yeah, we turned it over a little bit. A team like that, you can't do it as athletic as they are. You turn it over, and it's probably going to be a basket on the other end. And that's what happened. We just got a little, ahead of ourselves offensively, sped up a little bit. And gave them some easy baskets early in the first half that we just couldn't recap on.
Well, yeah, you mentioned it. It was the turnovers. You turned it over 18 times. They had 34 points off those turnovers. There are some teams, as you know, that you could turn it over against, and they won't necessarily make you pay.
Yeah.
Kentucky's not one of those teams.
Kentucky's not one of them. No, they probably at all times had 2 to 3 first-round NBA picks. And most of the time when you have that, it's just hard to recap on guys that can turn it around so fast after a turnover.
You guys win a lot of zone in that game. At least coming into the game, Kentucky wasn't a great shooting basketball team.
No.
And I'm still not sure they are. But the one guy who could shoot it pretty well did shoot it pretty well. And then a couple of other guys had decent days too. Tyler Hero, who's traditionally, or at least on paper, a good shooter, didn't have a great season coming in, knocked down a few, but it was really Keldon Johnson who did you guys in from the outside.
Yeah, that's that's the quality of having 3 or 4 really good players, because you can't you got to put your just pick your poison on who you want to double and who you don't want to. And we sent a couple guys down to the big fella, and he attracts 2, and then he's a good passer as well, and he made some really impressive passes out to some 3-point shooters. And you're
going to have to be more specific. Which big fella, P.J. Washington or Reed Travis?
Reed Travis.
They're both pretty big fellas down in that post.
Reed Travis was the guy that we said going in. We would send 2 to him,
yep.
And double him. And he's big, he's strong, he's physical, and he's a good passer. He made the right play out of the double team, and it made us pay.
You did have a bright light. You mentioned the rebounding was pretty good, and Booth Gotch, your true freshman out of Austin, Minnesota. The stage wasn't too big for him. He played really, really well for you. Had a career day with 22 points.
Yeah, great to see. He's playing more, and as you know, you play more, you get a little better, and it's important for freshmen like Booth to get in an environment and get on the floor like Kentucky and get some experience. And I thought it was great that he had some success out of it as well.
So last night you guys turned around. You had 3 games in 3 weeks leading into last weekend, and then last night you come back home again, and you had your second game in 3 days.
Yeah.
And it was against certainly not Kentucky. FAMU came in, and they had pretty good energy for about the first 20, 25 minutes of the game last night. I know Coach wasn't very happy at halftime and might have peeled a little paint off the walls and kicked the guys in the tail, got them jump-started a little bit. But what did you think of last night's game?
Yeah, I felt going into the game it was going to be interesting to see how our team responded after a game like Kentucky, and then coming back and playing a team that's not so accredited like FAMU, and so it was hard to get them up early. But yeah, Coach got after them at halftime a little bit. We made some adjustments and got after it in the second half.
Yeah, your defense was better in the second half. I think, offensively you were good just about the entire game, but you don't ever want to let a team in your building shoot 57% from the floor, and I think that's what FAMU did in the first half. And then you turned it up a little bit, and they ended up, I think, right around 42% in the second half.
Yeah, it was energy, and our defensive energy just wasn't there in the first half. And yeah, that's why they're college basketball players. They've got the mind to make adjustments. It's whether they want to do it or not, and they did, right? And I think that's the sign of a team that once we can do it consistently, regardless of who we're playing, first and second half, we'll have a better result.
When you have a young-ish team, and you guys aren't a super young team, you're a new team, but a young-ish team, you're going to have guys with career days. And on Saturday, Booth Gotcha had 22 points. Last night, Timmy Allen had a career high. Good night for Timmy, 16 points. And the guy we're going to talk to here in a few minutes, who's not exactly young by anybody's standards. He's an old man now. Parker Van Dyke had 20 points last night. So those guys. And hey, let's not shortchange Bo Rydalch either. Bo Rydalch had a career night too. He had 4 points and 4 rebounds. But it was good to see some of those guys see some shots go in.
Yeah, and I'm speaking of Parker. He's here. It's awesome to see him, rattle in a couple shots. Obviously, we're going to need it. But, with him being here, I say 4, but it feels like 10, right, that he's been here. It's just so awesome to see because he worked so hard at it. And I hope that continues, and I know it will.
Yeah, there's no truth to the rumor Parker Van Dyke was a redshirt freshman in Jim Boylan's last year here. He came in a lot of years after that, but he has been around for a little while. So you guys now will have a game coming up on Friday, and you've got a few more games. And I know the guys are happy about that because nobody likes to practice for 3 weeks and barely play any games. But do you feel like, with this young team, you're kind of getting some things straightened out right now?
Yeah, and it's the last 3 weeks have been hard on them. Like you said, 3 games in 3 weeks. They just beat up on each other all week long and can't wait till Friday or Saturday night comes for the game. So now we've got, a little more consistency with only a couple days practice between the games, and I think that'll help them from a mentality standpoint. And most certainly, I know they're looking forward to playing on Friday.
Well, we'll talk some more to Slokes about the youngsters and this team coming together and how you build that team chemistry when there's not a lot of it coming in. A year ago, they were able to go on one of those European trips. Probably would have helped this team too, but you're only able to do that so many times in so many years. So we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. But coming up next, the old man on this team. He doesn't look old, but I think he and Chase Hansen may be about the same age. Maybe not quite, but pretty close. Anyway, we'll take a time now. Parker Van Dyke will join us on the other side. This show tonight is always brought to you by our friends at Anheuser-Busch, proud sponsors of Utah Athletics, and always reminding you to enjoy responsibly. Taking a time out on the Larry Krystkowiak Coaches Show, presented by Smith's. This is Utah basketball from Learfield. And we'll make that our Pepsi Code Red play of the game right there. That deep three. That might have been his deepest three of the year. Parker Van Dyke. Our play of the game brought to you by Code Red Pepsi. That's how you do the do, Mountain Dew and Code Red. And the aforementioned Parker Van Dyke was hot last night, 6 of 7 from deep, a new career high 20 points. And he joins us right now. All kidding aside, how old are you?
24 years old. So
he's not as old as Chase Hansen.
No.
He's not as old as Hansen. Plus,
Yeah.
you look a lot younger than he does. Hansen looks like he's about 30.
Yeah. So maybe I should start saying I'm like 19. Maybe I can get by with that.
You
Maybe get
probably-
a few more years of eligibility.
You probably could.
So-
Was last night one of those nights where you get into the gym and it just feels good? As a shooter, you have some of those nights, maybe in warm-ups. Maybe it was just the first one that you let go last night. Was it one of those nights?
Yeah, I think so. It feels good when the first shot goes in. You know, you kind of get a rhythm, you get a feel for the game a little bit too. And then I always just feel better at home. And it feels like we hadn't played there in a while.
You hadn't. It's been like 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, so I think it was just a combination of the first shot going in, got a good couple looks, and being back home, being back in the Huntsman Center. And teammates ultimately made some great passes when, I came open and stuff. So it just felt good overall.
Well, and it had to feel good, too, for you because you've kind of been hard done the last couple of games. The Kentucky game and the BYU game, you've had really good looks and a couple of balls that have done the old spin around and then pop back out again.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes that happens, it just, in a shooter's mentality, you got to just try to make the next one and have a short memory, and that's definitely a challenge. But so last night it was good just to see a few go in, and hopefully that starts something going forward.
And I know it was only FAMU. It wasn't Kentucky. It wasn't Tulsa. It wasn't BYU. But when you've lost a couple of games, it kind of just feels good to get a win too, right?
Yeah, it does. You just got to get back on the winning track, and hopefully going into Friday we're trying to do something we haven't done yet this year, and that's win 2 games in a row. And so it was good. It was it's tough to have a short turnaround like that, play on Saturday, then play Monday, but it also is good to kind of get the losing taste out of your mouth and get the W. So
Yeah, but with that being said, you went 3 weeks and had 3 games. That's a lot of practice time. And as much as practice time is sometimes needed with a youngish team, you guys want to play games too. You'd rather have 3 games in 6 days than have to wait 3 weeks to play 3 games, wouldn't you?
yeah, I think so. And we've actually done both. We went to Anaheim, had those 3 games there.
That was 3 in 3 days.
That was
3 and 4 days.
3 and 4 days. And then we've had the long breaks in between games. So we've got a taste of both. Maybe we can find a happy medium, which I think we will in conference play, where we have a few practices and we play a couple games and stuff. So, but we've seen a little bit of it all, and I think it's been good for us to grow and to learn from it. And I think we're going in the right direction.
It's a weird spot for you because when you came to this program, the program was just starting to ramp up and begin to kind of get good after Larry, the guys, dug it out of that early hole. And you go on your mission programs in a good spot. Now in your last year, Parker, it's kind of I won't say rebuilding year, but kind of a retooling year with so many new faces on the team. And now you're the old man trying to be kind of a leader and a captain and show these guys what's going on.
Yeah, it's been a different year, and it's provided some different challenges, I should say. But overall, I've enjoyed it. It's been fun to kind of just be the leader out on the floor and off the floor as well. Whenever anyone has a question about anything, what hotel do we stay at? What time's this? What time's that? Where do we go? It's fun to have those answers for these guys, and to be able to help lead them and help get them to mature and grow into basketball players. And we expect a lot of our freshmen. We've got some great freshmen, and we expect them to play like upperclassmen. And it's been fun to help them along the path and to also continue to learn and get better myself. So.
Yeah, you're also to the point now too where Larry and Tommy and Andy and DeMarlo, they kind of expect you to know what to do, where to go, what the call is, what the situation is, and tell those guys on the floor because you've been around it. You kind of have to know what they're thinking. You've been around these guys long enough.
Yeah, and that's a tough adjustment coming in from high school to this level is adapting to a role that maybe you're not used to, adapting to a program you haven't played in yet. And I remember having a meeting in this office with the coaches about being an extension of the coaches on the floor, especially when we're in places like Rupp Arena. When we're at Vivint against BYU, you can't hear the coaches screaming at the other end. So, the play call. So I need to be that guy on the floor that can relay those calls and make sure we're kind of all on the same page and be an extension of Coach K on the floor. And
Well, and you know what's looming too is McHale. That's about as loud a building down in Tucson as you play in.
Yeah, that is. And so we need to be. Luckily, I'm glad we've had some tough road. I mean, Minnesota, the barn.
Yeah.
That was a tough atmosphere. No place is louder than Rupp, I don't think. So hopefully that prepares us for conference play, which is ultimately why we have these preseason games. And but it's been a good challenge for me, and I've enjoyed it, and I've been doing my best to do my best in that role.
All right, let's take a quick time now. Parker's got another segment with us here. We'll talk a little bit about growing with these young kids and maybe what the ceiling of this team is and where they've got to get better in the next couple of weeks with practice and a couple of games before Pac-12 play starts. This is the Coaches Show presented by Smith's, and this is Utah basketball from Learfield. The rare Jace Johnson assist as he fired it out to Parker Van Dyke, who knocked down that three. One of his 6 threes last night, career high 20 points. That had to feel good. To not just see that ball go in the basket, but to get the win and to just kind of do a lot of different things last night. And I think you even had a driving reverse layup, your one non-3 last night.
Yeah, don't get too many of those. I was able to get out of the passing lane and get a steal, and so felt good to show off a little bit of my versatility.
It was good to see your backcourt mate Cedric Bearfield get a few shots to fall last night too. He like you, and maybe even more so than you, has really kind of struggled to find that stroke at times this year.
Yeah, and it was great for him. He went 4 for 4 from 3, and was so pretty efficient that way. And which is good to see. It's good in games like that. We want to get a lot of guys some touches and get them some confidence, and because we're going to need all that confidence. We're going to need some of that kind of composure in those games heading into conference play. So it's always good to see guys like Timmy Allen. He had 16 points, and Jace had another good night. So it's good to see everyone kind of come together at this time.
How have you seen those freshmen develop from summertime when guys were playing open gym to fall workouts until, your coach divides the season up into 3 segments: preseason, conference season, and then, tournament season, postseason. So how have you seen those guys come along, Timmy and Riley and Booth and Chuck a little bit too, and a lot of those new guys?
Yeah, well, they're all very talented, and they're all very skilled players, and I think they've just gotten more comfortable being a college basketball player, and they've adjusted to the grind. I don't think you can't really predict how tough it is to play at this level, right, as far as our schedule, our school schedule, practice schedule, anything like that. And so I think they've adjusted to that. They're more comfortable in games. Like was mentioned before, Booth obviously had a tremendous game at Kentucky. Riley's been playing great. Timmy's obviously been playing great. So they seem to be more comfortable, and we're going to need them. And so it's reassuring to see their growth. You
got to play for a minute with DeLon, right?
Yeah, a year.
You see a little bit of DeLon's game and Booth's game with his length and some of the things he's able to do. You saw a little bit more polished player, obviously, because DeLon had played a couple of years at JC, but you see some similarities in their game?
Definitely the same features. I mean, they're both very long, athletic, things like that. A little bit different. I think Booth could potentially be, a little bit better shooter. DeLon was very deceptive in the way he moved and things like that, but very similar as far as they can play the point guard position, at 6'6", 6'7", with great length. And I think Booth has great potential to become a player like DeLon like that. So I definitely see some similarities, and he'll only continue to improve. I think one thing I noticed with DeLon, he was very coachable, and he was willing to get better and he was willing to improve. So if Booth can kind of inherit some of that, I think he can become that kind of player.
All right, you guys have 2 games left in the first third, or the first segment of the season. Friday night against Northern Arizona, and then that game just before New Year's against Nevada, which will be a big time game. They've got some dudes on that Wolfpack team. So, non-conference is what it is. It's non-conference. So where do you guys have to get better these next couple of games? And you'll have some practices too in the holidays, but before conference season hits, and obviously that first road trip down to Arizona.
I think we just got to put everything together. Like we mentioned before, we out-rebounded Kentucky, which is very hard to do, and we hadn't been a great rebounding team all year, and so we did a great emphasis in that in practice, and then it showed up in the game. But then our defensive transition lacked, and our turnovers, increased and things like that. So we need to make sure we put it all together and have this kind of consistent game where we're consistently rebounding well, we're consistently taking care of the ball, and doing what we need to do. And so we've got some assets that we're getting better at. We just kind of need to put it all together.
Coach K sits in that chair every week. Slokes is sitting in that chair tonight. They can draw up the best game plan in the history of the game of basketball, one that would make James Naismith cry. But if you guys don't go out, if you guys go out and start throwing the ball all over the gym, that game plan doesn't matter. How do you guys, and it was a little bit of an issue last year too, but how do you guys work on that turnover game? Because you're ultimately the ones out there with the ball in your hands.
I think it comes with first, it starts in the backcourt with the guards. And I think just having a calm sense of poise and some confidence with the ball, I think that tends to translate to the rest of the players. And then really executing our plays. Sometimes when we turn the ball over, it's because we're running the play wrong, or a guy's not supposed to be in the right spot that he's supposed to be in, and things like that. So I think we really dial in on being focused on executing, running the right plays, and I think the turnover levels will go down. Then playing at our pace and being poised and not letting the defense speed us up like it's happened before in the past.
Thanks for stopping by the show tonight. You're off to the movies tonight. What are you saying?
Yeah, I'm seeing that Harry Potter prequel movie, The Crimes of Grindelwald. So,
you a Harry Potter guy, or is it somebody else's choice?
I enjoy the Harry Potter movies, so we'll see.
We'll
see how I like this one. But
hey, thanks for coming by.
Yeah, appreciate it.
If I don't talk to you, have a Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. You too, Bill.
Parker Van Dyke with us here on the Coaches Show tonight, live from Larry's office. We'll take a time out here on the Coaches Show. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more to DeMarlo Slocum, pinch hitting tonight for Larry, who's out on the road recruiting. Just a reminder for you, 7 o'clock start time coming up on Friday night with Northern Arizona. The Lumberjacks coming in from Flagstaff. We'll Talk a little bit about them and the rest of the conference and more coming up. Halfway home here on the Coaches Show, presented by Smith's, and right here from Learfield. That was one of my favorite plays in last night's game, and that, by the way, is our Nissan drive of the game. Brought to you by our friends at Nissan. They know the game day is all about the game-winning drive. That wasn't necessarily the game-winning drive, but that was a great drive and a win last night. So they've got the Rogue. It's got available technologies to help the day's best drive, making it getting to the stadium or to the arena. Nissan's a proud supporter of college athletics and Utah basketball, and it was fun to see not only Riley bat and run the floor last night, but then give the little flex. I'm not sure what he's flexing yet. He's got to get in that weight room, get a little bit bigger, but he's done a really nice job for you this year, and it was nice to see Cedric find him for that run-out dunk last night.
Yeah, first, for Riley, he's an unbelievable kid, right? So fun to coach.
And by the way, nice as can be. He always sees me in the hotel, at the arena, downstairs here at the facility. Comes up and shakes my hand or gives me knuckles and says hi to me. He's a great kid.
Oh, day maker. And we, as a staff, we enjoy coaching him. I think his teammates enjoy being his teammate. And he's a pleasure. It's just great to see him out on the floor and having some success because the kid works at it and he always has.
Well, you can see, and we've talked about Booth a little bit, and Booth's playing well. He needs to get a little bit bigger too. Mm-hmm. But last night, Timmy Allen, all these guys, they're making freshman mistakes, but they're also showing you glimpses and flashes of their talent too. And it's just a matter of getting these guys a few miles on the odometer and getting them with Rock in the weight room for another year, because all three of those guys are talented guys, but they just need to get just a little bit bigger and stronger, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's, obviously with freshmen across the country, they come in.
Unless your name's Zion Williamson. Everybody else needs to get a little bit bigger and stronger, right?
Yeah. And our strength program is, hands down, it's one of the best. And so Coach Rock will get them in there before time. We always take these before and after pictures, so I can't wait to see it with these guys. He does a great job, and most importantly, they'll put the work in. It's one thing for us to have the resources, but the kid has to get in and put the time in, and I think those two particularly will.
Yeah, it's been fun watching Riley play a little bit too, because you can see after about the exhibition and then the first 1 or 2 games, he's always been an offensive player. I mean, he's been a guy that could score. You look at the California scoring records, and his name's on those lists. He's near the top of them, Southern California especially. But after a couple of games, you could begin to see that light bulb come on, and he found himself. Secondary break, popping open, and maybe he was a little hesitant early. He's not anymore. He'll take that shot.
Well, they all come from high school and have, and they're just used to doing what they're used to, their actions, that their high school, how they scored in high school, the caliber and the effort that they put on the defensive end. Riley had a little bit of that going on, but I tell you one thing about the kid, he makes adjustments, right? You tell him to do something, you coach him on something, and he goes out there and he makes the adjustment. Which is all the recipe for being a good player.
Well, the guys that you guys love especially are the guys you only have to tell once.
That's right.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Absolutely.
But the guys you love are the guys that don't make that same mistake 2 or 3 times in a row. They'll make it once, and then you tell them, and they don't make it again.
Yeah. Now he will make it again. He occasionally he'll make a time or two again. But for the most part, the kid is sharp. And I tell you, he's passionate about it. He cares about it. Cares about his teammates and what's across his chest. And when you have that, you have a winner.
We know what he does. A great attitude, and he's a terrific scorer. What are you guys as a staff harping on with Riley to get better at? What are those common things, the one thing that you really want him to get better at right now?
Communication.
Really?
He as any freshman, they come in and they just take the back seat, right? But like we all say, it's December now, and you're not a freshman anymore, so open up, right? And just let your voice be heard. I think he's earned the respect of his teammates in terms of doing things the right way. So we just want him to kind of open up and just be a guy and know that his voice is a trusted voice.
All right, Timmy Allen, another freshman, 16 last night. What's the thing you guys are working on with Timmy right now?
Well, obviously he's great getting to the basket, but I think scoring it around the rim. He's a big, strong kid to be a freshman, and he's going to be able to get around the rim with his ability. And I think right now just being consistent around the rim with finishes. Because that's going to be a big part of his career.
Then Booth Gotch, obviously we've talked a lot about Booth, big game, but he too is a freshman. What's he got to work on?
Well, we're playing him at a point guard spot, and he's just got it. We're working, just having a better command of the basketball, right? There's going to be guys at 6'7". There's going to be a lot of 5'10" guys that look like they can get in and feel like they can get in and pressure him. He's got to be able to handle the pressure. And I just, these last
Tighten
couple
up
days,
that handle a little
absolutely, not be so high. At 6'7", you got to play as low as you can, and it's hard, right? But he's working at it, and we're coaching him on it every day.
So those are some of the freshmen that are making a difference right now in the Utah basketball program. We'll take a time out here on the Coaches Show. When we come back, we'll pass out our Player Awards of the week. We've got to get our Team Utah Player of the Week and our Subway Sub of the Week. Unlike the last few weeks where we've only had one game to choose from, we'll have 2 games to choose from this week, the Kentucky game and, of course, last night's game against FAMU. We'll do that when we come back, and we'll talk a little bit about Northern Arizona as well as the Coaches Show continues. This is Utah basketball from Learfield. Couple of good games, and I think he may be our University of Utah Healthcare and University of Utah Health Player of the Week. You okay with that, Slokes? Are you Player of the Week?
Yes, absolutely.
What are you liking right now to Jace? I know you guys were talking him up this summer and talked about what progress he had made physically and everything, and then he had the setback in late September, early October with the foot, and it finally looks like maybe he's getting back to where he was.
Yeah. You know, one thing with Jace, you don't have to coach effort. He brings it every day, every practice, every game, which is obviously a joy for a coach, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's getting his confidence back from having his foot injury. And you know, we've done hopefully a good enough job just kind of easing him into it. But you can see confidence. He's obviously a great rebounder, and he's starting to slow down when getting catches on the block. So yeah, hopefully we can just keep building. And he was in there, you know, day off for us, but Jace was in there working at it and getting some shots up. So it's great to see.
I thought he held his own really well against Reed Travis and P.J. Washington, who are both really athletic, you know, basically power forwards. They're not centers. But you know, Jace has always given Reed Travis trouble with his length when he was at Stanford. I even thought he did a good job on P.J. Washington. Most of the stuff that Reed Travis got in the game was either when Jace wasn't in or it was scramble mode and things like that. When they were playing straight up, I thought he played pretty well on Saturday.
No, absolutely. We're a lot better team when Jace is on the floor, right? And obviously he's 7'1", and it's hard for him to get up and down the floor for, you know, 5-6 minutes at a time, so he can't play long stints. But we're doing the best job to keep him on the floor because obviously, you know, he rebounds it at a high level, and I don't care who we're playing against, he rebounds it at a high level. And so it's our keep him healthy, you know, and keep him fresh. And so obviously we've got the luxury to sub him a little bit, but obviously we need him on the floor a lot, and he's doing a good job when he's out there.
Looks like he's kind of getting his wind back about him. So he'll be our team player of the week, which is brought to us by University of Utah Health. With 16 convenient neighborhood health centers, they've got a game plan for your family's health. Visit them online, uofuhealth.org. That brings us to our Subway Sub of the Week this week, which is somebody that doesn't necessarily start but comes in off the bench and gives you a nice lift that way. Who do you want to go with as a sub?
Ooh. Well, our lineup's changed a little bit here and there, but man, if you're basing it off last night's game, you know,
Cedric last night's
game.
He had 16 last night coming off the bench.
Yeah, hey, here's the deal. He's a senior guard for us, and you know, you just had Parker here. Those two guys, in order for us to win at a high level, we got to have them productive. And Coach went with a different lineup last night to maybe wake him up a little bit, and hopefully, you know, 4 threes going in was a sign of the wake-up call. But Cedric's a good player, and I just think, you know, his name's at the top of a scouting report now, and he's got to learn, you know, to adjust to that and let the game come to him and know that just because your name's there, you still got to play within your team. And he will. He's not a selfish kid. It's just
I thought he did last night very well. Not many. I think he had maybe 2 turnovers, but he was 4 for 4 from 3. I can't remember what his overall numbers were for the night, but it was up there. I think he was maybe 6 of 8 on the night. Made his free throws, had a couple of assists, a couple of rebounds. I thought it might have been his most, as you would say, within himself game of the year last night.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think there will be some carryover, but you know, in terms of him moving forward and having that success. So we'll keep coaching him, and we love him. He loves his teammates. Teammates loves him. It's a matter of a lot of pressure being put on him because he is at the top of that scouting report, and the quicker he overcomes that, the better we'll be.
So Cedric will be our Subway Sub of the Week and Sub of the Game, brought to us by our friends at Subway Restaurants. If you're feeling hungry, want to spend just a few bucks, they've got 5-foot-long favorites for you to choose from at just $4.99 at Subway, the official training restaurant of the Utes. I think one other guy that you didn't mention that you guys need him to play at a higher level and at a high level to win at that level in the Pac-12 is Donnie Tillman.
Yeah, Donnie's got to be better. I mean, there's a lot of spin to it. He's got to be better for us, and we've seen him, you know, perform at a higher level, and I think that time will come. But again, he's another guy that everybody, when we walk into a game, Donnie Tillman, Cedric Bearfield, they're at the top of that list, and they've got to grow up pretty quick here in January when league play is on us.
Well, Donnie knows. He went through it a year ago, and so he knows what's coming. He's not one of these freshmen we're talking about. He knows what lies ahead at Arizona and USC and UCLA and places like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully that's what he's waiting for, to Pac-12 play. But no, Donnie's, he gets it. But it's been a struggle for him the last 2 weeks, and it's our job to get him back going.
All right, let's get a quick thought or two on Northern Arizona. They'll be the opponent on Friday night. Big Sky team out of Flagstaff. Slokes has got some ties to this program and that his sister, well, not the men's program, but the women's program. Your sister played a little basketball down in Flagstaff for the Lumberjacks. So what kind of team's coming in on Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, again, they're obviously coming in here, and it's a Pac-12 team that they're coming up against, and that's always, that's a Super Bowl for a team that's in the Big Sky. So we've got to bring our hard hat, and that we know they're going to come out and play free, play fast, press, and our issue has been turning the ball over. So we've just got to be superb with taking care of the ball.
Will these guys be a step up from FAMU?
I believe so.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, just from the small film I've watched, I think that they will be. And but in today's game, as you watch scores, there's no cupcakes, and we're going to come and play Utah basketball.
Well, there's no cupcakes. You can ask the Pac-12 Conference, and we've seen that this year, Slokes. It's not been a good start to the season for the Pac-12. There have been a lot of losses, games that you didn't expect schools to lose. Heck, UCLA got beat by Belmont the other day. Belmont's a good program, but you don't usually lose at Pauley Pavilion to somebody like Belmont. We saw ASU lose on the road to Vandy last night. And there have been some other bigger upsets than that along the way. So the Pac-12, at least right now, doesn't have those, maybe some of the signature wins we saw early last year haven't necessarily come from the conference yet, have they?
No, not at all. And we've had our opportunities to go in and have some wins. And so, again, Friday's the game. We have to take it one day at a time. And Friday's one we most certainly have to win and have some momentum going into January.
Well, and you also want to feel good going to Christmas. You want
Absolutely.
to get that W in your back pocket so you can go get a few days off, see the family, and feel good about things going into Christmas break, right?
Yeah, it makes the food bad, Bill. When you come off a loss, you can't enjoy your food.
Well, then you go over to the family's house and your mom's asking you why aren't you smiling? Do you not like the sweater I just gave you for Christmas? No, Mom, it's not that. We lost the other night.
Yeah, Tommy and I were just talking. Parents don't get it. They don't get this is what we live and eat every day. And so after a game, they'll call you and ask you 1,000 questions, but not understand and just keep piling it on until a point where you're just like, I don't want to talk about it no more. So we don't need holidays like that.
No.
Let's just go into Christmas with smiles.
Let's get the W against the Lumberjacks coming up on Friday night. By the way, 7 o'clock start time along the networks right here at the John M. Huntsman Center. And then go enjoy some ham and some prime rib and some roast beef and open up some presents. And then on December 26th, worry about the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
You don't want to worry about the Wolfpack before that because they're going to be a handful.
Yeah, they're good. They've got couple NBA guys on their roster, and I'm looking forward to it. This atmosphere, the Huntsman Center, just it's a good place for high level basketball, and we haven't had an opportunity yet to bring it in our building this year. Reno's one of those teams, so I think it'll be a packed house. I think our guys will be up for it. We're most certainly excited about it as a staff. So. The one thing I know is over Christmas we will be thinking about that.
By the way, you can tell Slokes is from Nevada and from Las Vegas because he didn't call them Nevada. He called them Reno. That's what people in the state of Nevada that live in the southern part of the state call the University of Nevada. They call them Reno.
Yeah.
So we'll take a timeout. Back on the final segment, the reason Slokes is here tonight, and he's usually out on the coaches are out recruiting tonight. So we can't talk about recruits, but we can talk about the process and what that's like when these guys hit the road, and they spend a lot of time on the road doing it, about the recruiting process. And I also want to ask him about a couple of guys that are coming in next year, because we can talk about those guys now because they've signed on the dotted line, and there's a couple of guys coming back from missions too. We'll talk about that coming up. Final segment of the Coaches Show next. This is Utah basketball from Learfield. That was the move against Kentucky, which was spectacular. Took the contact, got the finish. Probably should have gotten a foul on the play too, but you're at Rupp Arena. You got to take what you get there. Welcome back in. Final segment of the Coaches Show tonight. DeMarlo Slocum sitting in for Larry Krystkowiak, who is out recruiting tonight. You're the one guy that's not out on the road doing a little recruiting tonight. You guys spend so much time out there on the road. This is different. Summer recruiting and kind of winter recruiting are two different things. Mm-hmm. But give us an idea. When you guys go into a gym, set up, what are you looking for?
Well, it all depends on the year, right? I mean, you know, in terms
you're going into a gym, you know the players you're looking at, but what are you watching when you get into that gym?
Well, the first thing is demeanor. When we're talking about the kid in particular, his demeanor, his actions with his teammate, his ability to take coaching, you know, and then the ability to move on from a negative play and your reaction after a positive play. You know, and then obviously, you know, overall feel for the game. And, you know, just if you're recruiting a shooter, let's see if he can, you know, if he rattles in 3 or 4, like what's the minute he misses, does he change his whole tune or will he just shoot the 5th, right? It's just so many aspects and it just all depends on what you're looking for as a player.
Is that in-gym feel more important than seeing a lot of tape? Getting a feel for seeing them play in person? Because on tape, you're seeing the game, but you're not seeing all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that in-gym feel, wanting to see a couple of games in person, important?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really important. You know, from small things like the size. You watch a kid on film and he may look 6'5", and you get him in person and he might be 6'3". But I just think up and close, and more importantly with anything in close, it's about looking a kid in his eye and shaking his hand and just getting some character feel. That you can't receive that on watching video.
You got some good recruits coming in. You can talk about them because they signed in the early period. Mm-hmm. A couple of local kids, Matt Van Komen down at Pleasant Grove, Rylan Jones, who you might know a little bit, up at Olympus High School. And then, of course, Hano sending a kid over from Finland this year, too. And then you got a couple of kids. It's like getting those recruits back again. Your 2 mission kids are coming back too. Yeah,
I'm excited. You know, when we speak on the mission kids, growing up watching Utah basketball in Las Vegas, and they would come to Thomas and Mack. I always remember them, having guys 24, 25 years old, and we really haven't had that since we've been here. Right. You know, maybe a couple guys, but I'm excited to have that experience. Obviously, they'll be youthful on the floor, but from a mentality standpoint, as we all know, that helps. That helps your program. That helps, you know, in the locker room, off the floor, from a maturity team standpoint. So I'm excited about that. Rylan Jones, he's a point guard, and I've been doing this 16 years now, and I know when you've got a good one who understands position, you give yourself a chance to win at a high level. So really excited about that. And then Matt Van Komen, how can you not be excited about 7'3"? Great kid, local. Fans will love to see him. So overall, just excited about these guys, and it's going to bring a new element, new demeanor, new mentality to our team. And what I mean by that is these guys are all embedded and have all born to be and like Utah. Right. When you go out on the road and recruit, you know, these kids don't wake up, dreaming about going to Utah. So, but there's a couple of the guys coming in with this group they have.
Well, it's one thing to get Utah kids, Slosh, you know that, but you're playing in the Pac-12. Mm-hmm. You can't just take kids because they're local kids. These are not only Utah kids, but these are high-level Utah kids that were being recruited by big programs around the. Now, maybe not Rylan as much because he committed pretty early to you guys, and his dad's on staff. But these other kids were all being recruited. So it's one thing to get the local kids, and that's great. But these are local kids that could have played in a lot of different places.
Yeah, they were high major kids. There's other Pac-12 schools that recruited them, across the country. They got recruited. But I tell you, not only did they get recruited by high major programs, these guys are high major kids. They've got high major character, and I think that's what I'm most excited about with them.
Hey, thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having a few minutes for us. DeMarlo Slocum with us here. You can see him and everybody else Friday night, including me and Jimmy, at the Huntsman Center as Utah takes on Northern Arizona. Our pregame show begins at 6 with a 7 o'clock tip time. Thanks to our entire staff here as well for setting everything up, and thanks to JP back at the studio. Guys, enjoy your evening. We'll talk to you Friday. This is Utah basketball from Learfield. Good night.